So you're having some sciatica issues and you don't know what to do. You've called in the practitioner, but they can't get you in. What to do now before you even go? First thing with sciatica is that it's not the same for everybody. And so we're going to make this a little bit more individualized to you by saying, what is your pattern of preference? So when it comes to sciatica and back pain in general, we either have a preference for flexion, which is whenever you're bending your back forward, or we have a pattern for extension, which is where you're bending your back backwards, or we don't like either one and want to stay neutral. This is where we work through your pattern of preference first and then expand into the other ways. So as I say this is that if you prefer flexion, then that means we're going to be doing flexion-based exercises. If you prefer extension, then we're going to be doing extension-based exercises. If you prefer neutral spine, where you don't like to bend forward, you don't like to bend backwards, then we're going to stay nice and center for you. The first exercise that we're going to get into is a bee stinger exercise. And this is where you are going bee stinger down to the ground, bee stinger up to the sky. If you don't like either movements, then you'll stay very centralized as you do this movement. If you like flexion, then you are going to be moving more towards bee stinger down, back to neutral. Bee stinger down, back to neutral. If you prefer extension, then this is where we're going to be doing bee stinger up, back to neutral. Bee stinger up, back to neutral. And it's where you're going to work into your pattern of preference. If you find that you like to go into the other ranges of motion just a little bit, then do it. It's okay. As long as it doesn't hurt, then you can float into those other patterns. But you're going to probably prefer, if you like flexion, and that seems to make you feel a little bit better, to do more flexion-based things. If you tend to be more extension-based, then you're going to be tending to go more bee stinger up and then back to neutral. This movement in and out of your pattern of preference, your movement of preference, is key, because as we have sciatica, as we have back issues pop up, our spine needs to be told and needs to tell our brain it's okay if we move. Life is not over. Life keeps going on. Our spine is not deteriorating and falling apart. Our body is so protective of our spine because we only have one. And this means that the muscles along the sides of your spine are going to tighten up and guard substantially. They're going to limit range of motion. They're going to limit you actually moving your back at all, hardly. And what we need to do in this bee stinger exercise is say, we're okay. We can move it forward, we can move it back to neutral. We can move it back, we can move it back to neutral. We can float in and out of both of these zones just a little bit if we like more in the center. It's to help your body relax a little bit. And you're moving this mostly with your pelvis and not with your upper back. Your upper back is staying pretty still in this. The next exercise is going to focus in more so specifically on your sciatic nerve. Because sciatic nerves can be so finicky, we want to do a light, super gentle stretch to help it relax a little bit and basically habituate that it can have a little load and tension going through it and that it can relax and be fine. And this habituation is basically like, say, like you wore a scratchy shirt. Well, eventually that scratchy shirt is going to start feeling less scratchy, or it's going to drive you nuts. And this is your tolerance of that. And so if that scratchy shirt is driving you nuts, you are stretching your sciatic nerve way too much. We need to back you off and make it more gentle. If it's just scratchy enough where you can habituate yourself to handling and tolerating that amount of scratch, then that means that you are stretching your nerve just about right, because you start to forget that you're wearing that shirt. Your nerve starts to forget how irritated it is, and it starts to relax and habituate in and tolerate more. This is why when you take longer steps, why it zings you. This is why whenever you're driving your car, it zings you. It's because that nerve is stretched out. And so if we look at the actual how the nerve is going down your leg, it goes from your back through your butt area, down the back side of your thigh, back side of your knee, and then it bifurcates, it splits. There's one side that goes around the outside of your leg to the front part of your foot, and there's one side that goes down through your heel to the bottom part of your foot. And so as you're doing this stretch, usually if you bring your foot back, it's going to make it more stretch. If you relax your foot and point, it's going to make it less stretch. And as you lay on your back, your hands are going to clasp behind your knee because it helps it relax. And then you're just going to straighten your leg up until you feel a ever so slightly stretch behind the back of your thigh or into your calf or into your foot. Slight stretch. Then you're going to back off from that, bend your foot back down. Straighten your foot and leg back up, your knee up, and then again, ever so slightly get that gentle stretch and back down. Up again, slight gentle stretch, come back down. If you're doing this right, as you stretch it, your range will start improving. You'll start beginning more and more leg straightening, knee straightening. If you were doing this wrong and you were overdoing it, then it will start to piss it off more. Again, think scratchy shirt where you just want to take it off and you just can't handle it anymore. You're pissing yourself off. And so this is one that you have to be super cautious and careful for not to piss it off. Don't make it too scratchy of a shirt. Do like 10 reps, take a break. Same thing goes for the bee stinger. You can do like 10 reps, take a break, 10 reps, take a break. Do it multiple times throughout the day. These are things to habituate your body to movement and to allow that stretching and mobility of your sciatic nerve of your back. Last but not least is that we need to learn how to do a hip hinge. This hip hinge is critical to, one, supporting your back, strengthening your back, making sure this doesn't happen again, and also taking away load and pressure that your back may be putting on your sciatic nerve. If you have a disc issue, if you have a facet issue, if you have all these and the other things going on, learning the hip hinge is key for you moving forward. I recommend doing it on your hands and knees first. So you're going to do just a slight tail tuck, bee stinger tuck, where your back is still flat, but you know that your abs are on. And then you are going to bring your butt back, hinging at your hips, keeping your back flat until you feel like you want to start rounding your pelvis and rounding your back. Stop just before you would round. And so you're feeling when that starts to happen, stopping and then going forward. As you go forward, you can go into a pseudo plank, kind of a kneeling plank. That's where you'll feel your abs working more. Back should stay in a nice, straight, flat position. And then you're going to go back into that hip hinge. Go back and forth in this until you understand how to move and control your pelvis and your back to support yourself as you're moving. Then you're going to be moving into a kneeling position. And this is where, as you are coming back, you'll find that there's an area in that hip hinge that you can raise your hands up from the ground. As you raise your hands up from the ground, you'll find all the weight obviously is in your knees. You'll find your glutes will kick on and your back and core will stabilize itself. You may not be ready for this just quite yet. If you find it's hard to back yourself up from all the way hands on the ground, flat position, then you may want to put your hands on a support. Give yourself a little bit less hinge to deal with and core control to deal with initially. And then as you get better, then you can go hands on the ground and support yourself there. Because if you start hands on the ground, you'll have pretty significant hip hinge. But if you start where your hands are up onto something and then you hinge back, then you won't have as significant of a hip hinge to hold, which means that your core won't have to do quite as much when you're holding that position. You're going to work on sustaining stamina here, and then hands back on the ground, go back into your hip hinge. I hope this helps you get some relief before you even see a practitioner and helps you to understand some of the things that you can communicate with your practitioner to help you even jump forward even a little bit more, because these are things that set you up for success whenever you see anybody, PT, chiropractor, and/or doctor. If you want to check out this video on why you shouldn't be stretching your back constantly, then check it out here. I hope you guys have a fantastic day and feel better.